Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the second part for assets texturing with nodes in here in Blender 4.5. So, we remember we were working on the wood procedural material that we were working before. I mean, I repeat it again, but sorry, my English. So so we were working on this procedural process for the wood material. So the thing is this. So as you know and you remember, we were talking about some of the textures that we have here in the texture section in the texture panel. We were working with the noise texture most of the time, and we were using also the color ramp, and we start just gathering in different frames all the stuff that we have in the process. So we're gonna do almost exactly the same for the soaps. So the result was this. Let me just render. Let me just go for, yeah, we are in Eevee. Let's just go for render, common render. It's gonna, yeah, there you go. So this is the results that we have for the wood texture. And most of the time we were working with this one, with the viewport shading. This is alright, I don't have any troubles with this. So at the end of the day, if I rotate this and I try just to match the angle of the camera with the light, where the light is pointing right now, so it's just a control T. Let me just I'm gonna bring my screencast keys in here. Let me just go for it. I think it's almost, yeah, it's in here. Yeah, there you go. So with Control T in here is just select this this piece in here. So just from object, just go to the world and then select this node in here where you can store your HDR or your XSR. Just select this node and then Control T, and then it's gonna just bring back the texture coordinates and the mapping node in here. So you need to leave in the generate plug in here, in the output in here, because the other guys, they don't work in order just to rotate the texture that we have in the background. So if you want to rotate in the pivot center, so just go for rotation in here and then just use Z, and then you're gonna be able just to see how the texture, I mean the HDR or the XSR, the 32 bits image is gonna affect the pieces in here. So we have this. So just remembering, so because this is 100% procedural, so we're gonna have seams in here. That's something that we need to correct once we already, how to say, we already got the approval by the pipeline director or the art director. So we can just fix this in the with the clone stamp, but we will not cover that yet. So possibly we're gonna just cover that in future, possibly in the 4 part of these live sections for this, for texturing assets with shading with nodes and things like that. So let's just go back in here. So let's just go like Z, solid mode, and then we're going back to object mode. We're gonna start just working with the soap in here. So let's just bring back the soaps. These are the two guys that we have in this section. So I already have, I tried some specific stuff in here for the soaps, but I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do is those kind of handmade soaps that we see on the net, on internet, and in some specific vintage stores for body care and things like that, artisanal and things like that. So let's just select these two guys and then press M. I'm gonna put these guys in a different collection. We're gonna say soaps, And first of all, we're gonna start just working with this guy in here. So they're gonna share exactly the same material, but we're gonna work with this guy. And when we finish this, I'm gonna explain you something, because we're gonna make a variation of colors between these two guys, but they're gonna share exactly the same information with the same material. So let's just add a new material in here. Let's just name it. Let's just put soaps underscore M lowers. So Shift H, and we're gonna start just working with just only with this guy. Let's just bring back the material preview in here, and we're gonna just start working, or possibly render. It's all right. That's doesn't matter. So first of all, I have seen a lot of different kind of soaps. The commercials ones, they don't have like textures like grains or seeds in there, but I have seen, for example, for vintage soaps or artisanal or handmade soaps that some people made at home, that they integrate seeds, a little bit of different ingredients in there, just to give a different sensation. For that, we're gonna just start using something. We're gonna make something a little bit like with a little bit with some grains in there and things like that. Nothing 100% accurate, but it's something much better. We're gonna cover the roughness. We're gonna cover also bump mapping or normal maps. Possibly we're gonna call the displacement maps in here, because I want to give a different sensation for this material. Let's just change in here. Okay, we have originally we had keep boundaries, but we're gonna change it to keep corners. And let's just start first with the color. So what we're gonna use in here is this. Let's just hide that, and let's just put this like this, and we're gonna call here, for example, noise. We're gonna bring the noise texture again, and we're gonna just call something like this. We're gonna control shift and then click in here, left click, and it's gonna automatically just connect it to the surface output. So it's because I want to see only the texture, not the process with the material yet. So first of all, we're gonna call Control T, and we're gonna call a triplanar process with object, and we're gonna increase here the number of the scale. For example, we're gonna put 16, and then we're gonna call the color ramp. So what's the reason because I'm calling these guys like this is the color ramp is gonna control how the contrast is gonna be between the color of the lowest color and the top color, between the base color of the soap and the seeds or the grains in there. So let's just increase this guy in here. So as you can see, we will need a little bit more repetitions in here for the noise texture. Let's just increase it like 64, and then we're gonna call in here, let's just play with this guy. For example, if you want to have some specific grains like variation and something like that, but not plain color in here, so let's just increase the roughness. But if you want 100% like some specific, like some grains in here, let's just reduce the roughness, and then the detail, just reduce it until 0.4. And then we need to increase the size in here, like 256, something like this, and we can just start just working with this guy like this. So we're gonna have some like kind of a grains in there, and yeah, we can just also increase something like this, or increase this value in here, some grain like this, something like this. Let's just increase the detail in here, for example, just a little bit, because we're gonna have some small grains in there. The luminosity is gonna give us just a little bit of noise in in those grains in there, so we don't want so much. Let's just leave it like in 2, and the distortion is gonna just make some like kind of warp distortion filter in there. So this is alright, for example, for me in my case. And we can add a second control for the repetition, so we can maintain the 256, and then we can have a master value in here, like a multiply. For example, let's just put 1, and we're gonna get back 256. But if we put in here 2, it's gonna be the double, like this. So this is gonna be the master one that is gonna multiply by 2, by 3, 4, 5, 6, any number you desire. And this guy is gonna be like, for example, just the main number in here, something like this. So in this case, for example, also the transition between the grains and the plain color in here, so you can just change it between the interpolation between linear, cardinal, A's, B-spline. For example, B-spline is gonna be something pretty good because it's gonna give us like tones for between, in between, like between black and white. We're gonna have some grays in there, so we can just use something like this. We can have a different 100% tone in between in here, for example, something like this. And then we can just start just doing something like this, and this guy is gonna manage between the black and white in here. So something like this, I like it so much. We can just increase the white color, getting closer. So this is gonna manage the general shape of these grains with the soap. So in this kind of situation, we don't want to manage these 3 colors just to represent a soap. We want some specific colors. So in this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate this color ramp, and then we're gonna just call reset in here. So we can plug this ramp into this factor of this ramp, and then we can manage between these 2 colors in here. So we can have, for example, this in here, and then let's just plug it into the material, into the base color, and then to the surface. Let's see the results in here. So now we're able to see how the things are working properly with between all of this information. So we have the coordinates in here as a triplanar representation, so we can repeat the things, we can rotate the textures, we can just offset the textures and things like that. We can change even the behavior in 2D, 1D, 4D, etc. So we can change to multifractal, fractal. So for example, if we want less points in here, for example, something like this, we can just increase it, we can decrease it. Let's just put, for example, 4 in here, and then we can just have more and more control with these guys in here. So for example, something like this, and this is something that I like more and more. So we have something like this, and then if you want to see something much better, I mean with the colors, so what we can do is right now we can change the colors. For example, the interpolation, I'm gonna change it to A's, E's. For example, let's just call something a little bit more creamy, something like this. And then the grain could be something a little bit more like an almond color, like the center of the almonds, something a little bit lighter, or something darker. It depends, anything you want. For example, something a little bit more brown, like putting some cinnamon pieces in there. And then you can just start just playing, for example, with the colors, something like this, a little bit more solid, a little bit more fade. I prefer a little bit more fade because it's gonna give us a more natural sensation between the transitions. At the end of the day, we need to be conscious that we need to create something a little bit more interesting, not something plainer or something very common. that we're used to. For example, let's just put a little bit this the lighting here. For example, let's just start playing with the shader, so we can use all this information. So this is gonna be our main controls for color, but from here we can extract a lot of data that we can reuse, for example, for roughness, for other kind of different effects in here, for example, for sheen, code, blah blah blah, etc etc. But let's just put a little bit some order in here, like something like this. Let's just put the information like this. Let's just put all the data is Shift P, and then we're gonna frame this information in here. Let's just put a name like main controls. There it is. And these are gonna be ramp colors controls. So we already have something like this, and then what we're gonna do with this soap, for example, I wanna add some specific noise, but I don't wanna use this guy in here, but also we can reuse it, that's not a big deal. But let's just do something a little bit different. So let's just reuse, for example, this information. We're gonna make the creamy color, we're gonna make it more shiny, and the grain colors of the cinnamon or anything you wanted, let's just make it a little bit more more diffuse. So what we're gonna do in here, so we already have all the information for these guys in here. So this is gonna be the main control, how the fade is gonna be between the creamy color and the grains in there, but this is gonna control the color between creamy and cinnamon. So we can reuse this information in which way? For example, we can just create another color ramp in here. Let's just connect it in here and see what we have in here. This is the information that we have right now between all of this and the information of these two guys add into this guy. So what we're gonna see in here is next. So let's just reconnect the principal BSDF in here. Is Ctrl Shift left click, and it's gonna reconnect the BSDF output into the surface input. So we're gonna use this information, this white color as shiny, and this guy is gonna be less shiny. So let's just do it. Let's just plug the color in here into the roughness. So this is what we have. Okay, all right. So I didn't remember it. So in Blender it's completely different. So the black color is gonna make it a little bit more shine, as you can see here. So what we can do in here is just flip the color ramps. So as you can see right now, so is this. As you can see, the shining, the specular color is just affecting the creamy color, but not the cinnamon one. So this is a good one because we can just start just controlling this information like this and make it a little bit more shiny, creamy, but not the cinnamon guys in here. So this is gonna give us a little bit better sensation, and we can also reuse this information. For example, let's just rename this guy, for example, like roughness control. We can reuse this guy, for example. Let's just duplicate this guy, and we're gonna reconnect this guy into this one, but we are gonna change it into displacement. I know some people is gonna tell me, why don't you use it as a bump map? So it's just an example, guys. It's just to show you how these things are gonna start just working. You can use it for bump mapping and things like that, but let me just show you to give you a different sensation. So what we're gonna call in here, so because this is gonna be our main control for the cinnamon seeds or grains in here. So we're gonna call in the vector displacement. We will not use the displacement modifier in here because we don't have so much control with nodes, and I prefer the nodes for displacements in my personal opinion. So what we're gonna do in here is we're gonna plug the color into the height. So we already have some information in here. So these are completely new updates in here. So the scale is 0.01. So it's gonna give us completely different results that we're used to that in previous versions. Before continuing this, so we need to tell the shader that is gonna start using displacement maps here in Eevee, because Eevee is not used to about displacement maps in the past. So in here we're gonna just change displacement into bump into displacement maps in here. So it says that it's not support, doesn't matter, don't worry. Let's just plug this guy into displacement and let's just wait right now. So as you can see, it's 100% is working. But the thing is this, we need to understand that the displacements are gonna just start just displacing or moving each vertices in here. So with this control, we can just manage the how the things should work in reality. For example, this is gonna be the scale how much is gonna be pronounced. So we can just divide in two. Let's just divide this guy again in two, something like this. We can just flip it, that's not a big deal. We can flip the effect. As you can see, the displacements are working properly. So the thing is this, people is gonna tell me it looks a little bit like facetating and things like that. It's because we don't have enough subdivisions. Let's just add, for example, one more and one more. So as you can see here, it's working properly. That's not a big deal. The only thing is that the displacements in here, they should be managed with very low values in here, something like this. And there you go, guys. You can see here how the difference between what we have at the beginning with only two subdivisions, and this is with 4 subdivisions in here. So we don't have seams, we don't have any repetitions somewhere. So this is working properly. Also, you can change in here the interpolation. That's not a big deal, and that's something that is on you. So let's just change it and see how it behaves. So as you can see, the transition between the creamy color between one and the other is just working a little bit more better. That's something that the process with this one is a little bit complicated. And the other thing that you need to have in mind, so this is 100%, this is pure white, pure black. So for example, in this case, we can just make it a little bit lighter to make the transitions just a little bit more how to say more soft, and we can just make it pronounce the pieces just like this, or make it just in here, because I prefer gray color to white than black to white. The reason is because the black color is gonna give you a completely neutral value, and that's something that we don't have any control in there. So with this, we can increase and we can maintain a little bit more order. Let's just put like something like this, and this is something that is giving us right now, for example, a different sensation. This is another, for example, to make, for example, a ice lollipop as an ice cream lollipop. You remember I'm gonna call an ad in here. Do you remember the Magnum one? So this is kind of the result that we can do. It's almost the same process, but we can change the colors in here. For example, I don't know, possibly I don't know if we have this, let's just change it into this color, something like this, or even a little bit more like green colors, or even something like this. Doesn't matter, guys. At the end of the day, it's a process that we must not look for mistakes. We can extract all the advantages that we already have in here. So if this is working for a soap, it can also work for a ice lollipop in here. So that's something that is gonna help us a lot. We can flip the colors, and we're gonna have something like this, a little bit more chocolate. But let's just change, for example, the colors in here. Let's just change it, for example, a little bit like blue, and something like this, a little bit more this way. And yeah, let's just flip these guys in here. So yeah, there you go. So we already have these kind of results. And for example, this guy here, flip it. Let's just flip these guys again. So we already have this kind of soap, this like pastel color here. And yeah, the thing is this, what I was trying to tell you with the other soap is this. So because this guy is gonna share the same color in here, so this is gonna be the soap. But the thing is this, we don't want the same color with this guy. No, we want a completely different color in there. So what we're gonna do in here is we're gonna try to mimic the process with, like if we were working in Substance Painter. So what we're gonna do in here, we're gonna call an image, and what we're gonna do with this guy is this. So we're gonna call a mix color. Then we're gonna duplicate this guy in here, and then we're gonna change the colors in this guy. For example, I don't know, possibly something a little bit more pink. Let's just connect this guy in here. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so we have something like this. Okay, we have this kind of result. So what we're gonna do in these kind of situations is next. For example, I don't like this color in here. Let's just use something just a little bit more a different kind of pink, or something a little bit lighter. Yeah. So what do we need to, in order just to have both colors? For example, I want this one with the blue and the yellow, and this one I want with the pinks. So what we're gonna do is next. So we're gonna connect this color in here on A, and we're gonna connect this guy into B. So let's just connect this guy into the base color. And what we're gonna do in this situation is this. For example, let's just Control T with this guy in here, because we're gonna use the UVs. We're gonna use a mask. This mask is gonna control everything with black and white, so we don't need so much resolution. We only need at least 1K, no more than that. We're gonna use mask control. So we're just gonna fill the color 100%. So let's just call a new image, and this image we need to connect this guy in here into the factor. So at the end of the day, the black color is just leaving what we have in the background, but if we go to the texture paint and then we call the bucket the fill in here, and then we just start just painting with into the other guy, for example, let's just change it into the white color in here. So what we have in here is just painting, for example, this. Let's just go to the UV editor. So this is just painting this guy in here. It's 100% just painting this guy. So if we want to switch this guy in here, so let's just go back to black in here. For example, let's just go back in black, and we're gonna be able, for example, with these two guys, just paint, for example, I don't know, like this. Or if we want to switch it, let's just, for example, select this guy. Let's just go for the round one. Oh, I don't know, it's something's happening in here. Something weird is happening in here, guys. I don't know. Oh yeah, let's select this guy and then just paint it just like this, and there you go, guys. So the mask is gonna act like it's gonna isolate one or the other. So at the end of the day, you're gonna need to 100% save this image, but as long as you remember, you can just save the image in here in the external data, just pack it, and this is gonna help you just to switch colors with things that you already have with masks in here sharing the same material. So this is very useful in these kind of situations, because sometimes if you apply more than 2, 3, 4, 5 different materials, you're gonna add more memory cache to your processes and your render times. So this is gonna help you a lot. You don't need a very big resolution for these kind of guys. Let's just discard this and let's just change the resolution in here, for example 512. So it means that this is gonna help us a little bit more, because at the end of the day, if you see here, for example, the resolution with this guy is this, but it's not affecting at all the quality of the visuals in here. So it's just acting as a mask, and that is gonna help us to have a lot of control in here. So this is a very short live, just showing you how we produce this kind of materials for the soaps in here. So I hope you enjoy it, because I wanted just to cover right now on the weekend. And thank you very much, guys, and just rewatch the video, and see you next.